Well, Maria, first of all, I just wanted to just reiterate my gratitude to you. I've been following your work for the better part of a year, and I'm always left feeling better about humanity after you speak than when I started. So rather than me telling your story, would you mind just giving us a little snippet of kind of how you keep busy and what you do for our listeners?
So, David, I'm going to call you David.
It's all good. David or
Uh,
Davi. Just don't call me Anne or
David,
or or or,
David.
or Jane.
I first I want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here and just connecting with everyone that follows you. Because before I go, before I die, and I think of death in this beautiful way, not like most people.
Mm,
I'm not afraid of death. I
no.
feel that even at this point in my life, I've lived such a beautiful life. I was able to connect to my soul in a way that I want everyone to learn to connect with their soul this way. And that's why I speak so authentically, because when your soul is leading, it's like you're okay with everything that has come from the past, and you're okay with what's coming in the future, because you know that you're good, and the soul is that light. I want to make sure that I get to shine that light on as many millions of people. That's my goal. So just the fact of being here with you, I'm already winning, because
Mhm.
the goal is millions. So I am right here, continuing to make the impact. So thank you for having me. The story is funny. I've been saying my story over probably 600 times by
Wow.
now.
Wow.
Um, and at the beginning, when I tell my story, I always I'm spiritual, so I believe that God is leading me, and that could be for anybody that thinks, that they don't believe in God. It's okay. I don't judge anyone. I want everybody to think of believe in something. It's spiritual, something bigger than you.
Yeah.
And that could be the universe, that could be nature. And for me, all of it is composes my belief. So when I always say, let my words be the words that the Lord wants me to speak and be able to make the impact. So I'll start with, right now, since I've been talking about the light, I'll start talking about the light. Right now I own a medical center and an urgent care in White Plains, New York, and I'm very, very focused on serving the underserved community. I ended up bringing in this mission. Actually, the mission came to me as the result of an experience that I had when I turned 50. I almost died at the age of 50. I used to have breast implants because I didn't value my temple the way that I do now. And this is not criticizing anybody, so don't feel like I'm criticizing those women that have breast implants. It's okay if that works for you.
Yeah.
I realized that it wasn't working for me, especially after one of them burst and I almost died. I had 5 surgeries, and I was very weak for 1 year. And that sort of was an accelerator for me to get connected to my soul. And I didn't even know it then, but I left a job that where I was for 26 years. 26 years.
Wow.
I started there as a medical assistant. Then I became a manager. And 4 years later, I was the executive director for 22 years.
Wow.
Yes. Developed an amazing career, making really great money. And I had a prestigious job that I thought for the rest of my life I was going to, I said they have to pull me out of a wheelchair from here because I loved it.
Right.
And I was able to really learn how to understand the business of medicine, the healthcare. I ran this multi-million-dollar business. We went from 7 doctors to 50 doctors, from
Wow.
10,000 square feet of medical space to 70,000, 70 to
Wow.
80,000. Crazy
Yeah.
in my
Impressive.
leadership.
Yeah.
So when I left it, and everybody thought, that I was crazy because I have this life altering experience, and I decided that I got the mission. I said, I understand now why I went to Scarsdale Medical, and why I was there for 26 years, because I can build my own. And I gave myself 3 months. 3 months later, 3 months later,
Wow.
I had a medical center, because you know what, David, one thing that I know is that what you think, what you speak, you create.
Mm-hmm. Amen to
It's
that. Amen to that.
we all when you are connected, you realize it. And I had the privilege of writing my book, I Say No More, which I want everyone to get, because
Great
this
book.
book, you're donating to my movement, which I'll talk about, soon. But that led into my business. So I end up now, 9 years later, I serve the underserved community. I have multi-specialty practice with my business partner, Gina Capelli, who is my soul sister, my soul partner. And I think it's important, since I know a lot of entrepreneurs and business people are listening to this, that it's important that whenever you're going to choose a partner, that partner is someone that can grow with you. If you have somebody that is righteous,
Mm.
I got to tell you, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because one thing I knew from my business partner from day one, it was that we had a lot of work to do together, but that she was not righteous. And we have grown so beautifully together as human beings, and then as business owners. And we're impacting lives because we have impacted each other.
Wow.
And so that takes care of my medical center. Then my son asked me to write this book, actually. And that I didn't think of writing a book. Like, I was like, why? He's like, Mom, even if you don't, let's say that the book doesn't become popular, that do it for us, for our family. Like, I want my kids to know your story,
Mm.
because your story is of inspiration. Your story is of understanding that you could come from the ashes and you can build yourself. So I ended up writing the book 2020 during the pandemic. The book came out, and then the movement came out. The movement is a movement that fights against sexual abuse of children, and what I call the silent pandemic of sexual
Yeah.
abuse. And people would ask, why did you go into a movement of sexual abuse? So for me, I'm a survivor. And, even saying the word, I'm a survivor, it's a courageous word, because most people stay silent. Silent feeds the pandemic of sexual abuse of our children. And I realized that by me opening up on my book, I gave the path. I open up the path for so many survivors to say, I am a survivor, and not keep the secret. Because you know what? There's a book. I'm obsessed with books, by the way. There's a book that I read. It's called The Body Keeps the Score.
Mm. Oh, yes. I'm familiar with that book.
The great book.
Yeah.
And he said, until you break your silence, until you tell your secret, you are at war with your soul.
Mm.
And that for me was like, wow, it is true. Because once I decided 45 years later to tell my story, it was like the freedom that came from that. And my story is a story of a lot of pain. And unfortunately, it's a story of many people.
Yeah.
I was 9 years old in the Dominican Republic. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of the details, but all the details are here, because what I decided to do was, I said, in order to bring change, we need to feel the pain. And I wanted people
Wow.
to be in that room where I was sexually abused by a man that my father gave me to. My father, who's supposed to be my protector,
Yeah.
am in the middle of the night in the Dominican Republic, in a very small town where we lived called Licey al Medio. And they were taking my little brother that was 4 years old. And at 9 years old, I took my little brother from my father's arm, and he took me. And he left me with this brujo. He was a witchcraft man.
Wow.
That forced me to drink a bottle of whiskey. I could have died just from that. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter, and I look at her little body, and it sort of became for me almost real, like in context of what I went through, because I forgot so much. I forgot even how I looked from the trauma. But this man forced me to drink a bottle of whiskey nonstop. And then he raped me the entire night. He brutally raped me to the point where I needed surgery. I had to have my fallopian tubes, my right ovary got twisted in the fallopian tubes because of the way that he treated me and how brutally he raped me. And David, that changed my life forever. And that's when I say I come from the ashes, because I wanted to die. At the age of 9, I wanted to die. I could understand when people are stuck in the tunnel of darkness and there is no light.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt at the age of 9. I didn't do it because I didn't know how. So, but now you see this woman, I have found the light, but it hasn't been easy.
Wow. The way that you share your story, I mean, obviously powerful. Obviously, it resonates with so many people. And I think the book, between your speaking, your podcasting, your book, there are so many different channels. I think, I mean, truly, even if you just saved or helped one person, that would be a life well lived. But I've already seen your impact with more than one person, with countless people. I mean, it's when you talk about the rising from the ashes, that sort of phoenix, I see a lot of people still stuck in that
Yeah,
hole of shame, right? They're not able to get beyond that shame.
yeah.
What or who, maybe who or what helped you break that cycle?
So I had an accelerator, and I talk about, we have accelerators. And for me, and when I say accelerator, is something happens that gives you the opportunity to decide to shift from victim to creator. And for me was when my son was born. I got married at the age of 17. I had a child at the age of 20. And when my son was born, he showed me how broken I was from my trauma. It was the first time that I saw it, because one night, my son, who I could not connect with, him when I thought it was a girl. So I'd have this boy. Well, boys hurt me. My father gave me to a man. This man brutally raped me. Then I married one that was abusive, because that's what I learned. I learned that I was worthless. So I chose worthless, because I'm coming from a space of I'm not worth anything. So if this man wants me, wow, he's it, because he wants me. And to me, I was broken. Even the fact that I wasn't a virgin, then think about, this is 50 years ago.
Wow.
Being a virgin in the Dominican Republic, it was a necessity. Basically, if you were not a virgin, you were damaged.
Yeah.
So here I am, I'm damaged, and this man wants me. Well, I went through so much abuse, so much abuse. And now I have this child that is a boy. And when my son was born, no connection. I could not understand. I'm like, oh my God, I have this child. And he became very, very difficult. And a few months passed, like 3 months. I was exhausted one night, and I took this child and I shook him and threw him in the bed. And my son fell on the floor. And this doesn't hurt the way that I used to hurt, even when I say the story, because my son and I, we heal people together. We facilitate healing for others.
Yeah.
We do a retreat in Vermont
Mm.
together. He's 40 years old, and the healing that we've done, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's one of my most proud relationships, because, and he knows that I did this, obviously, but it wasn't until I wrote my book that I shared,
Wow.
because
Wow.
we think we're alone.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I share this, because people say, well, like, I'm by myself with the secret, right? And I'm thinking that I must be so horrible that I did this to my son. I can't share that because there's so much shame.
Yeah.
Shame is a feeling that is a destructive feeling. When you embrace that you come from trauma, that you had no control of that trauma, then you make a decision to forgive. And forgiving, my father asked me for my forgiveness. I never saw my father again until the day he was dying. I got a call from my uncle, and my uncle asked me, he said, I'm calling you because your dad, who could not speak, he had a brain tumor, he wrote asking for my forgiveness in his dying bed. And he was my second accelerator, because I learned to forgive, to live. I forgive to live because I forgave my dad. And what I realized is, for all these years, I had my father with me every day,
Yeah.
because I hated him.
Yeah.
And that was eating me up inside. So my father and this abuser actually continued to abuse me for the rest of until I forgave.
Yeah.
Because by forgiving, I let it go. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much lighter.
Yeah.
My father died a few minutes after I gave him my forgiveness. So I gave him a gift, and he gave me a gift back, because till then, I did not understand the power of forgiveness. So he's in this book. I dedicated this book to him as well.
I think of shame as energy trapped, and it stifles and it keeps a lot of people back, whether it's in their personal journeys. I'm a career and executive coach, so I see the way that these feelings keep people trapped, even in their professions, right? And listen, you and I both know how prevalent child sexual abuse is, and child abuse period is, but abuse takes all other forms too. And when people connect with your story, they might be connecting literally with that abuse, they might be connecting with some other type of abuse, but so many people have experienced some sort of trauma, and whether it's now or in their childhood, and that shame, it keeps them trapped. That lack of forgiveness is, you mentioned it was kind of a gift that he gave you, but it was also a gift that you gave yourself, right? It was like, hey, I deserve my love, I deserve this liberation. And so when I see people doing that in their career journeys, not even in their personal lives, it's amazing how they can show up at their workplace more confident, with more levity, with more creativity and innovation. They're much more effective and creative problem solvers because they let go of certain shame. That's what I see.
I love it. No, you're 100% right. People ask me, how could you do all these things? I mean,
Right?
guys, I'm like obsessed with
You
life.
got you got so much energy, right? So many things, right? The entrepreneur, the advocate, the business owner, all of it.
And I do retreats in my house in Vermont.
That's
And
amazing.
I have, I've created all of this. You know why? Exactly for what you said. I am it, I protect this energy, because that's
Hmm.
what we are. And you
Yep.
carry this energy, like you were saying, whether it's a business, if you want to be an entrepreneur. I've spoken at different universities and about entrepreneurship, and I don't focus on skills. Listen, skills you learn.
Right.
There's so much out there that
Yeah.
teaches you how to be organized and all of that. I focus on connecting to your inner child. If
Mm,
you never stopped
yeah.
to connect to your inner child, and you are starting to, if things are not going the right way, whether you are thinking I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I want to change career. Connect to your inner child and become curious, very curious as to what happened to you when you were a child, because we all carry trauma, different trauma, because there's transgenerational trauma. The
Oh
goal
yeah.
is that I know my kids carry less trauma because I've broken the chains of the
That's right.
transgenerational trauma.
Yeah.
But if we understand this, you know what happens? When you have negative energy, it depletes your focus. It depletes, obviously, your energy is depleted. So my ability to focus is through the roof. So I'm always thinking, what do I need to do? What needs my attention? And I'm not thinking of, oh, what did this person say? Or why is this person not liking me? Or my ex-husband is making my life, impossible, because I don't give my power to my ex-husband.
Right.
He was 10 years, both. 10 years, my first one when I was married at the age of 17, and the other one, 10 years I gave him to. That's enough. There's no
That's
more
right.
years that I'm
Yeah,
giving
yeah.
them.
That's
So
right.
it's all related to
Yeah.
your professional life. It's
Yeah.
all related to your children, your family, your spouse. Like, if things are not working, connect to your inner child.
I love that idea. And you may do similar exercises or similar work. I was part of a cohort a few years ago, and one of the exercises in this, it was focused on sort of positive psychology and mental fitness and emotional intelligence. The exercise was either on your phone or print a little photo of yourself as a kid, your favorite photo as a child, and literally stare at it in the mirror and look at yourself and look at the picture and back and forth, and do that for as long as it takes to get either uncomfortable or comfortable for something to happen. And when we were debriefing, there was so much emotion, right? Because there's so much history. Most of us were in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. So there was decades and decades of history, of excitement, of trauma, of all sorts of things. And how powerful it was to just almost speak to your inner child and say, look, it's going to be okay. You've suffered enough. You've gotten through a lot. And it was just a really profound exercise for everyone in the group. Some people identified as sort of traumatized. Other people, it was just like a regular HR course for them. But it was a really, really powerful experience for everyone involved.
That
Do you
is
do
beautiful.
anything like that in your work, or is it a little bit more sort of abstract?
Oh no, there's a lot of work. I mean, when we, like, for example, I use a lot of what I do with the retreats, and
Mm,
also in the work that I do with Yo Digo No Más, because a lot has to do with how do we become mindful? How do we heal? How
yeah.
do we break chains? How do we break social norms? So in the retreat, we have a whole structure that helps you deal with, and basically it's all about connecting to your soul. When people leave the retreat, which is almost, we start on Thursday, we finish on Sundays, and I can tell you that I actually said, because I just went through the retreat last weekend with a few, we do for women and men,
Hmm.
but uh, I focus more on the women. My son, and we have Ben, who's the spiritual healer, who is amazing. So the combination of the three of us, it's powerful.
Yeah.
And we have a whole structure to help you connect to your inner child, to help you connect to your soul, and take the layers of darkness that have been covering it from your trauma. And when people come, I actually got this idea from this weekend. I said, we're gonna take pictures, selfie, of the
Mm,
people that when they come and when they leave. The
hmm.
years, I had a woman that
Wow,
was,
that's awesome.
most of my girls this time were in their 30s. And I had this girl that came in, and one was 35. I have to turn on the light.
It's all
One
good.
was
Yeah.
35, and she looked like she was 50.
Wow.
And by the time she left, it's like, oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy how she looked her age. And this
Yeah.
happened with the other one, another one that had a lot of darkness. because that's what darkness does. It steals you from living. And for me, this has been, my retreats are called Forgive to Live. For me, it's incredible what I do. And eventually I want to be able to, so my goal is eventually with the movement, Yo Digo No Más, which is, I started talking about the movement. We are breaking the chains of sexual abuse. By breaking the silence. So I have a talk show. We're doing a walk, April 27th. We're going to be doing a walk. And this walk is it's part of the Break the Silence campaign. And we're also educating. We have a parenting guide in our website, Yo Digo No Más, I Say No More, where people can go and educate themselves. The idea is I'm modifying it even more, and I'm getting some funding, I believe, soon, to be able to really make it even to the level that I want, where parents can learn how to speak with their children from the moment they're born. They're starting to protect their kids and teaching them as soon as they're able to speak how to protect their bodies. Because unfortunately, the abuse happens at early age. It's like by the time they get to high school, most of the time it's a little too late, because most of the children are abused statistically like 4, 5, 6. And so for me, that's important. But the next part of the movement is the mission is healing. How do I help heal? And like my book is a healing tool, because I share everything in this book, how I heal, my journey growing professionally. But when I started to connect it all, I realized that I grew to be who I am today, a woman that carries this light, that because there's peace inside. And no matter where I go, no matter what I'm going through, and David, I've had some struggles. So people think my life, there's been many struggles, but there's one thing: when you do the work and you do it consistently and you dedicate yourself to healing, you know what happens? You open your soul, and then the soul, once you open it, that light is there forever. Like, the soul is always bright. So the mind, the thoughts start catching up to your soul. And then you start seeing with different lenses. But the work needs to be done. For example, I wake up every day and I light up my fire with deposits. So if you are someone that gets up and then rushes to work, eats, rushing everything, your fire is already out. You need to, I do daily deposits. So I do my sweat deposits. That's one little log that I put, a tiny one, in the mornings. Then I go meditate. Then I go learn every day, every single day, learn. Then I take a cold shower. It's part of my routine. And the cold shower is a focus tool. It is a resilience tool. And I've learned all of these things. And then when I leave my house, I am ready. I am ready to take on anything that comes. But I come first. Numero uno. Before my children, before everything.
And I love the idea of deposits, right? Because we are energy vessels, and energy is depleted throughout the day. And yes, when we sleep, there is restoration. But in the morning, I mean, what you do in those first few minutes and hours can set the tone for the rest of the day. You mentioned the cold shower. I took my first cold plunge. There was a place by the gym, and they were offering it. It was like 49 degrees, which I know it can be even colder, but it was cold, and it was only like 2.5 minutes, but it was an amazing experience. And you kind of alluded to it. It has psychological, mental health benefits. It's great for the immune system, resiliency. So many wonderful benefits there.
Even just so you know, I follow this guy. His name is Dr. Andrew Huberman, and he said there is something I never heard, is black fat, they call it. even it keeps, you lose the black fat.
Mm,
According to Dr. Andrew Huberman, and
yeah.
he's a scientist, he
Right.
explains
Right.
everything. Millions of people follow this guy.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And there's tons of benefits to be able
That's
to
right.
do that. But most people leave their morning is rushing.
Mhm.
It's already starts negative thoughts. It's like if you don't light up your fire every day, the fire is going to go out very quickly. Very
Or even like junk food, right? So either literal junk food, like you're eating sugar, filled cereal, which is not healthy for you, or you're on the phone consuming junk food, which is media, social media. Social media has plenty of benefits, but let's be honest, it also has a lot of negative shadow sides. And if that's how you start your day, then your heart is already like in the wrong place, and your energy is wasted. So I've seen, speaking of the good in social media, when I've seen you work out, those are the days where I was like, should I work out? And then I see you sweating, right? Doing that sweat equity work. And for me, I'm like, oh yeah, no excuses. I got to go to the gym. I love exercising. I love jogging and running. So when I see other people sweating online, it to me is instant motivation, instant. So I appreciate you, and I wanted to thank you for motivating me. And I do believe when you do the work, psychologically or with your heart, it absolutely makes it easier for you to be disciplined around your nutrition, your sleep hygiene, your exercise routine, all of which makes you even more resilient and stronger and ready to take on the day. But if you're just waking up and eating junk food and eating junk food media, then you're not going to be at your best, period.
Yeah. Being mindful, one of the other things that I do is I declare who I'm going to be every day.
Love that.
So today I was fire. This
Fire.
morning I got up and I meditate in the mornings. So I meditate 15 minutes pretty much every morning, and then I go to sleep with sound waves,
Nice.
frequency,
Yeah.
and I put it for 15 minutes because I sleep. It's like turning off the light.
Same.
My
Same.
brain turns off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's also part of your inner peace, right? Because you're bringing it to sleep. And I'm not going to think of anything at night because there is no business of thinking at night. Night is to sleep. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of people struggle with that. And then what you have to say is, how am I being? How am I showing up every day? Then that's going to affect you on your sleep also. But declaring who you are for today with intention helps you be who you want to be. So today I'm fire, and that just came to me because I felt this fire energy, and I have so much to do, and my day was like, okay, I did all of my routine, and it's like, okay, I asked Siri to remind me of all my meetings, so I put an alarm at 2 minutes, two minutes before my next meeting, and I go, Siri, do this, do this. I have meeting because I have the walk, Saturday. I ended up being feeling like a fire. So
Hmm.
yesterday I was reflection. I,
Hmm.
I was in a reflecting mode. The other day I was peace. But when you declare who you are from the beginning of the day, then you are thinking of the declaration of who you are. So you got to be who you're saying you're going to be. It makes a
That
big difference.
focus. It's that focus that you're able to maintain that you spoke to earlier, which is so important because it's the modern day lifestyle. We're all busy and we all have a million things to do. And if you don't have those priorities and that vision, that goal, that word, that phrase, then how do you know you've succeeded? How do you know your day was successful, right? So, and especially like a lot of people have 9 to 5 jobs that are just jobs. They're not careers, or they don't think they're careers. They're not really loving their jobs. There's not a lot of heart and passion around it. So again, if you start your day crappily, you go to a 9 to 5, that's kind of a dead end job, and you go home and you just watch Netflix and eat chocolate, ice cream. Is that the life that you want to be living? Is that your sort of goal and ambition? I'd
Yeah,
say that most people it's not, but they are stuck in that cycle.
absolutely. If it's not working, and the past, your trauma only goes so far
Yeah.
because I did not have control of what happened to me. I get it.
Yeah.
That wasn't mine. That was my father's darkness.
Yeah.
That led him to change my life. And right now, I'm fully responsible for the results that I'm creating. 100%. It's me. It's not my past. If it could be my past, if I'm not addressing my past, if
Right.
I don't get curious and go and connect to my inner child, because that inner child is driving, whether you like it or not. There's another book that I would recommend. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I'm actually listening to it again for the fourth time. There are certain books that I go back to it,
Yeah.
depending on what is happening in my life. And when Joseph Murphy says that over 95% of your decisions are made with the subconscious mind, only 5% are made with your conscious mind. And he says that your subconscious, when we are born, we are all born without a subconscious. We are born good. That's where I say, I can tell you I'm very empathetic with everyone, humanity. I'm empathetic with my dad. I don't know what happened to my dad, that he went from light to darkness to make a decision like that. I don't know. The person that abused me, he was born with light. I don't know what happened to him. And for me, Oprah Winfrey, I listened to her book called What Happened to You. And in that book, she talks about that. And I know sometimes it's hard for people to even hear that, because they say, well, what do you mean? Like, I have to excuse what happened to me. These people were evil. Nobody is born saying, I want to be evil.
Right.
I want to be an abuser. I want to be an alcoholic. I want to be a drug addict. That's not the life that anybody wants. So we need to be able to let it go, and again, go back to forgive to live. Because if you want to live, you have to let go of the past, but you need to understand it and get curious, because otherwise, I got to tell you, that is driving you. That is driving you. But there's power in that, David, because then if I have control of my results, then I'm going to focus on everything that I can control now. Now.
And the other thing, as you're sharing that, what resonates in my cranium, in my brain, is I think everybody, other people have said this, but it resonates with me. I think everyone is born a genius. And I don't necessarily mean with 180, IQ, but there's that sort of deep curiosity. And when little kids, they're playing and they don't care about failing or making mistakes. They just go for it. And then that sense of curiosity and wonder and exploration and discovery and innovation, let's face it, school and work knock it out of us very quickly. Society knocks it out. And some of us reconnect with that. Some of us maybe don't lose it. Let's say someone stays an artist and becomes an artist, and that professional career their whole lives. But for the most people, like, corporate life knocks that creativity out of your brain. And if you don't do the work, you'll be either mediocre or bored or miserable. Choose your word, but you're not going to be living at the wavelength, at the frequency that you can. And so when I come across people like you, who I see are operating at this higher, better, best version of themselves, it is a blessing. It's an invitation. It's a motivation. It's a reminder that it is possible, even if you're coming from those ashes, from that dark shadow place. You don't have to stay there unless you want to or you choose to. It can be a safe, like morbidly safe space, but it is holding you back. So really just wanted to thank you for all you do. Thank you for all you are, and just all the stories that you've shared of yourself, and empowering other people. It's amazing work. I just want to ask you very practically, remind us of the website. How can people learn more about the movement, your Digo
Yes.
Nomas, and everything else that you do?
So the website is Yo Digo No Más, I Say No More. We have it both in English and Spanish, and there is so much information. One thing that I'm really proud of is that we get about over 220,000 people that visit the website of Yo Digo Nomás a month.
Wow,
A month.
that's amazing.
So what we're putting out there, we also have Instagram, Yo Digo Nomás, also Facebook, we have LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Then we also have a talk show that I'm starting to film season 5. You go on, yeah, I'm excited about that. Season 5, it is going to be on our YouTube channel, Yo Digo Nomás. And there are incredible stories. I want you to subscribe because that helps, with in YouTube, you're helping the movement. We also have David, a campaign, because people say, how do I help? You could either go on the website and volunteer. You could also donate $10 a month. If I have 1,000 people donate $10 a month, it's $120,000 that I could use to bring. My goal is to bring a curriculum to the school district that is going to teach children from the moment they start in pre-K how to protect their bodies, and we're going to teach parents how to protect their children, because I know so many stories. If the kids knew what was happening, they would have been able to speak.
Yeah.
The destruction of their innocence will not have taken place. And I need funding to be able to do this.
That's
I
right.
put, David, over $1 million of my money in 4 years. That's what I've done. Because for me, I became obsessed with this mission because this is urgent. Is an urgent matter that affects all of us, whether you think it doesn't affect you, because most people stay close to 80% of the people that have been sexually abused as children, they stay quiet. They never tell their story. And that is driving everything. Marriages, divorce, parents that are destroying their kids and giving them transgenerational trauma. So also with me, you can buy my book on in Amazon. It's in Spanish, it's in English, it's in Audible. In addition to, I have my website, mariatrusa.org. I have a lot of information there. Also, I was blocked from Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp because of the message that I give, that I talk about sexual abuse of children. And that was about in 2022. And so my Instagram, which I please follow, is Maria_Trusa. And then I have Maria M. Trusa for Facebook and LinkedIn. I have a lot of followers on LinkedIn that I love, and I'm very connected to them. And thank you, David.
I appreciate you so much, and keep your fire, keep your fuego, and in my language, again, your fire alive. I appreciate all you do. Thank you again for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ciao.